In today's training, we are gonna break the demo down. Why I say what I say when I say it. There's a reason that I was able to close people on the spot. First exposure, close them on the spot. This demo gets results. So make sure you have your pen and your notepad and all distractions, put them on hold because I want you to focus 100%. I want you to go through this video at least 10 times. Put it into your own words, and then I want you to video yourself doing the demo, okay? So we're gonna start out and I'm gonna break down the process so you simply understand why it is what I'm saying when I'm saying it, okay? So first off, you start with your story. So I'm gonna start with my story. You wanna have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So first off, my name is Amanda Bobbitt. And thank you for joining me today. I wanna tell you a little bit of how I got involved with this water. 9 years ago, I was considered clinically obese. I had mercury poisoning, adrenal fatigue, and I had lost my female cycle. No hormones, and almost 8 years. And I was sick. So what do you do when you don't feel well? You go to your doctor. So it was doctor after doctor, pill after pill, same story. I became the mystery patient in my local area. Well, about that time, about 8, 9 years ago, my grandfather, this very scientific, very skeptical man that doesn't buy things for health, he heard about this water technology. My grandfather purchased one. And because of that, my whole family was like, what is going on? Grandfather got this unit? We gotta have it too. So as a family, we all bought machines. So 9 years ago, I used to work at my parents' garden center. I was responsible for the front counter, answering the phone, ringing up our clients. So when I started drinking this water, our customers were like, I don't know what's going on over there. I think Amanda might be on something because she seems so happy. She's losing weight, her skin's glowing. We gotta ask her what's going on. And so I'd be carrying around this jug. And so they'd come up to me and I'd start talking to them and they're like, wow, what's going on? What's new? You look so good. I'm like, I think it's this water. And they looked at me like, okay, now Amanda's got off the deep end. She's starting to like, you know, what is she doing? Selling water? And she really believes water is helping her. I was like, all right, you know what? I happen to have this medical device at my home. And I know it's capable of making like 300 gallons of water a day. Why don't I just, you know, bring it down here and I'll put it in our back break room. You can just drink it for free. So within the first month and a half, I had over 50 people coming into my parents' garden center to get water. So what was happening is I'd see them coming in with these jugs and I would be like, hey, how you doing? And pretty soon I'd go to the back break room filling up water jugs and I'd be back there all day long. My mom and dad were like, Amanda, we've replaced you at the front counter with someone else. You know, what are we gonna do here? Are you gonna be spending all day in the back break room filling water jugs? I said, look, mom and dad, I know you want me to own your legacy and take this from you. That is not my mission and that is not my passion. I'm gonna help people and I'm gonna do it one glass of water at a time. So within 2 months, I had quit my job. I was already making more with this water business than they were even paying me. So that's when I decided to go all in. I'm so happy that I did. So now I'm gonna stop right there. So what I did is I just painted you a picture and I got emotionally involved in the story. So notice there's a clear beginning, middle, and an end that drew you into my story as if you were there with me. That's how you wanna make people feel when you're giving your story. It's the stories that sell, the facts that tell. If you start getting in a lot of science information, you're gonna get a lot of skepticism. You're gonna get a lot of questions that you might not be able to back it up. So just remember, your story is what's selling. So make that story so good that people are like, how do I get a unit? Nowadays, I don't even really have to do the demo as much as I used to because the story is so good. People will just buy the machine off the story. So get really good at selling your story. So that's how I want you to start off your presentation. And if you have someone else, if you're doing a larger presentation, introduce you, you're gonna get better results and have a little script for them to introduce you. Okay, so now that we did that, we're gonna take just a little break here and we'll be right back. Now that you heard my story, now we transition it into briefly talk about the company, not everything, not all the history. Your demo should really only last you 30 minutes, maybe 45 if you're explaining the business and you have people that are really interested. But the longer you go, you're gonna start to lose people. Especially if you wanna do it on a Saturday and you're like, hey, I'm doing a presentation, it's only gonna take 4 hours. No one's gonna come because they want to get in and get out. They don't wanna spend a lot of time doing it. So do your best to keep within 30 minutes to 45 minutes, okay? So now that we did the story, we're basically gonna let them know about where this technology comes from. So here is what I say. So I say this is a certified medical device in Japan. So now you have to, they wanna know why in Japan and not here. So that's where you're explaining. In Japan, they believe in preventative healthcare. You pay your doctor to keep you well. If you were to get sick in Japan, you stop paying your doctor. The Japanese culture is #1 in longevity. They live the longest out of everyone. So let's just take a seat back for a second and let's look at the US. What do we do with our healthcare here in the US? We wait until we're sick. Then once we're sick, we go to the doctor and we start to pay our doctors when we're sick. And then they give us a pill that's for the symptom and it's not looking for the underlying cause. And now we are on pills. And those pills are generating income from the pharmaceutical companies. And so we have a sick care management system here in the US, not a wellness program like in Japan. So this is certified in Japan by 6,500 doctors there for preventative adult diseases. And this company is now 46 years old. It's not new, it's just new into the US because we don't have the same philosophy on health. As a matter of fact, we spend $2.7 trillion every year in the US after we become sick. No money is spent in preventative care. So this is something you can do every day that helps your health from getting sick. And if you did have something going on right now, you're gonna be surprised in what it can do for you. All right, so I'm just gonna pause right there. So the reason I say that is I don't wanna make any health claims. So surprised in what it can do for you. I didn't say if you have this, if you have that, it's gonna help you. You're gonna be surprised in what it can do for you. So just so you know, during your presentation, even your story, you don't wanna say this water's cured anything because in the US, the FDA regulates those drugs, and this is not a drug, and you would be practicing medicine without a license if you start curing things, which then the company is at risk and you are also at risk. So we really want to take that risk away and just not make any medical claims, even if we know, hey, we know what this water can do, right? Try it. All right, so now on from there. So now we have to connect the actual presentation, 3 different properties. So here we go. So now that they know, now it's the transition, right? Okay, so what we do is we import this unit into the US, takes your tap water, filters it, runs it through a process known as electrolysis and ionization. What that means is the water you drink has 3 different properties. The first one we're going to talk about is antioxidants. The second thing is the alkalinity, and the third is how it's going to hydrate you. Okay, so I'm going to pause right there. So now what I did is I told them exactly what we're going to do. So in their mind, they already position as if they know what we're going to do. From there, I always like to ask questions during my demo because I want to know where people are at. So I'm going to ask at this time, I'm going to say, what kind of water do you typically consume? And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be opening up the bottles and listening to them. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for people paying attention. If you notice they're like this, that means they're skeptical. And that means you're going to have to give them a little more eye contact. They might be a little bit scientific minded. Maybe you're striking a nerve. That can also happen. So you might see people getting a little bit teary-eyed. You don't know where they're at, but pay attention to body language. If you see somebody that is not at all paying attention, I call that checking out. You want to check them back in. So ask them a question and say their name. Jan, what did you think about that? And that will check her back in so she's paying attention. So part of the presentation is you gotta keep the people involved. That's why you gotta ask a lot of good questions. Plus, as a salesperson, the more questions you ask, the more easier it is to communicate with them, to get to their pain points, to get them to purchase the unit, okay? So we're gonna ask them what kind of water they drink. Most people are gonna say they drink Dasani or Aquafina, or they're gonna say tap water, which we'll get into that at a later date. The reason I have no tap water here is because the tap water contains lye, contains minerals, it contains chemicals, and a lot of those chemicals are alkaline. That doesn't mean it's good for us, but when you test it in front of them, they think, oh, it's blue, it's gotta be good. So we don't use tap water because there's a lot of exclamation. We have to explain it a lot going through that process. That's easier to just leave it out. Later, you can go back and educate them, but just for simplicity, I like to leave it out, okay? All right, so we now know that they drink Dasani water. Now we explain the different waters. So Dasani water has been banned in Europe since 2007. They got the worst product of the year award and were taken off the shelves. Why? Because they were caught putting tap water in the bottles, repackaging it and selling it right back to the public. So I call this dishonest water. And on the back of this water, it says purified, which means reverse osmosis or deionized water. On the back, there's gonna be ingredients. Oh yeah, water has ingredients, right? Magnesium sulfate, potassium chloride. Those ingredients make you thirsty. So you're like, oh, It's important to know that bottled water is an industry. So the industry of bottled water is worth about $18 billion in the US. Huge industry. So if they can get us to drink more bottled water, they're gonna have more profit. So then they put those ingredients in so we drink it. So we're gonna test this one. And the next one we're gonna talk about is smart water. Now I used to call this smart water when I used to buy it at the health food store. Now I just call it dumb water. Because water is a solvent and scavenger. Water is gonna sit in there, and this type of plastic is known as number 1. That means it's the easiest to be recycled, which means when you put water in, it's gonna definitely leach those plastic contaminants. Those plastic contaminants are known as chemicals, free radicals, and estrogen to the body. Estrogen is a female growth hormone that causes cancer cells in the body, specifically in men and women in the breast tissue, to multiply and divide at a faster rate. So now we have that going into our body. It's just coating our insides with estrogen mimicking compounds that our body thinks is actually estrogen. Okay, so we want to explain that. And then we have the Propel. When I first started with this 9 years ago, it used to say protect with antioxidants. I don't know what happened, but there is no more antioxidants on the label. But this is also artificial sweeteners. I'm gonna stop here and talk about artificial sweeteners for a minute. Most of the public doesn't understand that they're not good for us. I know I was one of those. I used to drink a ton of My Diet Go Girls. That was for breast cancer awareness. And I would drink it and drink it and drink it. My mom always said, honey, that's not good for you. So then I would sneak it because she was very much into health. And I was like, well, she doesn't know, right? It's calorie free. Just because it's calorie free does not mean it's good for you. Very, very toxic, very oxidizing. And I'll explain that in a second. Then we have Sprite. This is loaded with high fructose corn syrup, which has genetically been modified. What that means, for all of you that are trying to figure out what that means, it means that the scientists inject a protein into the seed that makes it resistant to Roundup. So then when it's planted, the farmers can use as much chemicals as possible. It's going to kill the pest, but it's not going to get to the plant. So now we have something that is genetically modified, and the side effect is our body doesn't know what it is because it's not pure anymore. It's been altered. So that's what the soda pop is. It's very addicting. It sends your insulin up the roof. It spikes the insulin. Then of course you get the crash and you want to crave more, and then you're consuming more on a daily basis. Average person in the US that drinks water from a bottle is spending $5 per day. Somewhere in your presentation, I'm just gonna pause for a minute. I want you to break it down. Reduce to the ridiculous is what we call this. So if someone's to say they drink bottled water, you're gonna say, okay, how much do you average you spend on bottled water a day? People don't comprehend it, so you have to help them. Okay, well, let's just imagine you're drinking at least one a day. Or let's actually know. What does it take to be hydrated? 64 ounces on average? That would be about 5 of these a day. So now you're consuming $5 on average bottled water. Times that by 30, you have $150 a month. Times that by 12, you have almost $2,000 a year just to drink something that's not even good for you, and we're voting with our money. By spending it, we're just basically saying, please, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, stay in business so that we can do more business with you, and then these plastic bottles are going back to the landfills, back to the oceans, into the fish, and then back into our bodies. Do we really want to support that? Absolutely not. And it's not tax deductible, where this machine is 100% tax deduction for you. So that's what I want you to explain at some point during your presentation, is that bottled water is very, very expensive, okay? And then we have Kangen water. So in your presentation, make sure to let people know what Kangen water means. Kangen water, Kangen, is a Japanese word that means return to origin. Because in nature, where you find this water is the bottom of a waterfall. So imagine that that water from the glaciers, they spins and basically does the same process as this, and it crashes down, ionizing and electrolyzing that water, and that's where we find this water in nature. So there's several different places in the world you can go to get it. Lourdes de France, Tallahassee, Mexico, Nordenway, Germany, are just a few that you can go and get this water. And how it was even discovered is the early 1900s, Russian scientists started doing studies on the longest living people on Earth. They found these people living in the high mountains drinking glacial milk. So that's where this came from, way back in the early 1900s. The Russians and the Japanese perfected this technology and made the first machine in 1974. That's when it came out of the hospitals. So it resembles glacial milk. It's the most natural thing, and our body loves it. Whereas nature never provided reverse osmosis, distilled or deionized water. That's man created. What do we know about things that man creates? There is typically a side effect to it. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit longer than a half an hour, but I just want you to understand the demonstration. Now we must educate people on the antioxidants. Realize that people you're talking to don't know what an antioxidant is or does, even if they tell you that they do. So an antioxidant, you already watched the video on the cell. You can explain that if you'd like in a shorter form, but I'm going to break it down very simple for you today. So just tell them about the apple. So just ask them, what type of antioxidants do you consume? Ask them that question. A lot of them will say fruits and vegetables. A lot of them will say, well, I don't know. So then you're going to say, okay, well, do you know what they do in our body? I know I didn't. They're going to say, yeah. Okay, so paint the picture anyways. Say, okay, so what an antioxidant does, it protects from oxidation. So our body ages, and that's the oxidation process caused by free radicals. These little free radicals are everywhere. They're found from microwaves, cell phones, TVs, radios, computers, our air, our food. They're everywhere. And what they do is they age things, they oxidize. So think about this. Take an apple, cut it open, let it set out. What do you start noticing happening? So you're asking them this question. They're going to say it gets brown. You're going to say, excellent, that's oxidation. That's what's happening in our bodies and creates inflammation. Inflammation and oxidation are linked to nearly every single disease process. So there's things that we can do that create more inflammation, more oxidation, more aging, or there's antioxidants, anti-inflammatories. So vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin A, their job is to protect. So if we took this water and sprayed that apple, it doesn't get brown for 4 hours because it's protecting it from that process. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to actually take you through these different liquids, and we're going to test just how aging they are to our system. If you have not got this book already, this is found on my website. I'd highly recommend you get it. This is the #1 tool that gets results. Once we developed these, the team just started flourishing because they were able to duplicate the demo very easily. So this book is going to have your whole demo presentation in it. Here's the ORP chart. So ORP stands for oxidation reduction potential. 0 is neutral. Anything positive creates oxidation and inflammation. So people that you know that have itises like arthritis, bursitis, tendinitis, colitis, that's inflammation. So the higher it goes, the faster we get sick, the faster we age. What we want is an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory that brings the aging out of the body. Antioxidant, protect. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna show our clients here, and you'll want a little stand over here if possible, or someone can hold it. And we're just gonna go through this. So here, as well as I'd recommend you get an ORP meter. This is the Milwaukee 500. You can also find this on my website. I've practiced with so many along the years. This is the best one, okay? So we're just gonna show clients, and if they're drinking Dasani water and they see this meter go in, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing to my body? The higher it goes, the worse, right? And think about this. What's the average shelf life on a bottle? Could be a month, could be a couple months, could be a year. Who really knows? But the longer it sits in there, the more plastic chemicals it leaches, the higher that number is gonna go, the more toxicity, the more oxidation. So right here, we have a positive 345, okay? Not good. And then the next one, the smart water, positive 350. And here is the very toxic Propel, positive 354. And if you have somebody that's skeptical in the audience, you're gonna notice right away they're creeping up. They're looking at the meter because they're trying to validate this information. They wanna be like, I can't see it. That's your scientific skeptical people, which is good because now you know how to target them. They want data, they want facts, but realize most people aren't scientific minded, only 20% of the population is. So 333. Most people are visual. So when you're doing your demo, if you can paint pictures, 60% of people go visually. And then audio and also reading. So that's why you want to make sure you have a flip book so they can also see it that way. Okay, 403 positive. And now look at this. So see the negative here? When you do your demo, make sure you're giving fresh water. These bottles here are BPA free because a lot of people are gonna say, well, you know, if you have a plastic jug you're pouring out of, and they're like, well, you're telling us not to drink plastic and now you have a plastic jug. You're like, yeah, okay. Well, this is glass and it's BPA free. The water is sensitive to air, light, time, temperature, and motion, which is why you wanna have a dark container. If you're sampling water, you want all the way to the top. If you're using plastic, I highly recommend you go with the best plastic out there, which is BPA free, and not a number 1, you're looking for a number 7. So that's the best. And if you stir the wand, you're gonna get a higher reading there. So just note that. Stirring it will give it a higher reading. Okay, but make sure to stir it in all of them because the scientific minded people will say, well, you didn't stir it in that one. So now you know for sure who you're dealing with. So that's the antioxidants. And you wanna make sure you're like, oh my gosh, look at that. It's negative. So the emotional aspect, people buy emotionally. So if you can tie them into that emotionally, get really animated with yourself, it comes in time, you're gonna get better results. Okay, so we're gonna take another little break here and then we're gonna talk about the pH. I just wanna pop this in here real quick. I wanna show you how sensitive these antioxidants are. Because you're gonna have those clients that say, I drank the water, but I didn't notice a benefit. And that's where you're gonna say, you know what? Let me just test your water next time. We'll fill it up today, I'll test the ORP, go home, come back, and next time just bring a little bit of that water with you so we can test it to see if you're even getting results. When you do this correctly, it's gonna put your potential client into action. They're gonna wanna order the machine because they don't want it secondhand, they want it fresh. So I'm gonna show you right here. This is something I recommend you show them when they come back with their water. So show it to them fresh. You're gonna put the wand in there and show it to them fresh. And now we're gonna just put this water in here. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna test the ORP. So right here we have a negative 340, right? Can you see that? Negative 340, negative 600, negative 500, okay. So remember I said the water is sensitive to 5 things: air, light, time, temperature, and motion. So if there's one downfall to these antioxidants, they're not smart. They don't know they're supposed to go in our body, so they escape through those different ways. So if you're not drinking it fresh, the best time to drink is within 20 minutes after consuming it. It's gonna start to oxidize, just like broccoli that gets old or asparagus that gets old, same thing's happening. So it's gonna oxidize. So now we're just gonna shake it up. It's exposed to all the light in here, all the air that's in here, those little free radicals are just gonna start to dissipate. If you have it in poor quality plastic, plastic is free radicals, it's gonna neutralize the plastic toxicity. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing. Remember it was a negative 4 or 500. Oh, wow, look at that. We went to a positive. Can you see that? So we have a positive 135. So when you show people that, they're like, oh my gosh, I've got to get a unit. I don't want to be drinking it 2 days old. I want to get those immediate results. So if you're dealing with people that don't see a benefit, everyone sees a benefit. Either it's they're not drinking enough or it's not fresh enough. So make sure they're drinking at least a ½ ounce per pound of body weight per day, in between the meals, not with your meals, and drinking it as fresh as possible. If they can come back every day and get fresh water, they're gonna get better results. So now we're gonna go ahead and talk about the pH of the water. So most people have heard about the pH buzz and they know it's good. So I usually ask them, have you heard of the acid-alkaline balance? So that's a question I'll ask them. And they'll say, oh yeah, we know alkaline's great, fantastic. So that's when I find out where they're at. And if they don't know what it is, I always explain it anyways, even if they do. But then of course, if you're dealing with someone that's more of an ego, you're gonna say, oh my gosh, you're so smart. Not everybody knows about the pH balance of the body. So here's an overview, right? Because they already know everything. So here's an overview. So this is the pH chart, stands for potential of hydrogen. 0 to 14, 7 is neutral. Anything below 7 is acidic. Anything above 7 is alkaline. We want a balance. And our blood likes to be slightly alkaline. So what happens when our blood becomes too acidic? We will go into a coma and we'll pass away, which is why we're all here right now, because our body is protecting itself from acidosis. If not, we would not be living, because everyone is in a state of acidosis. Stress is the #1 cause of acid. Alcohol, artificial sweeteners, tobacco will bring your body into that state. In the US, standard American diet stands for SAD. We're consuming 80% acid-forming foods and only 20% alkaline-forming foods. So our balance has gotten off, and then our body is constantly being pulled down into that environment, which is very unhealthy to live in. So our body is so smart, it robs your electrolytes. This is calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Note, when you say electrolytes, nobody knows what those are. So you break it down: calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Where are those found in our body? Bones, tissues, ligaments, joints, and cartilage. So when you put acid in, you have a lot of stress, your body's gonna rob those minerals and it's gonna stick it into the blood. When it goes into the blood, it's gonna balance the pH of the blood, otherwise you'd go into a coma and pass away. But what happens to the calcium in your bones? You start breaking down. Your body starts cannibalizing itself. How many of you have heard of calcium deposits, kidney stones? So what happens is that calcium comes out, goes into your blood until the thread is over and the body's not too much acid anymore, and it deposits. That's called calcium deposits. And so this water is going to go in. It's a tool to help to balance that system. So that's going to raise a red flag when anybody goes into their doctor and says, hey, I'm going to drink alkaline water. One of the main objections you're going to have here is, oh, my doctor told me you can't change the pH of your body. So in here, why I say this, I'll teach you in a second, is because I want to overcome that before it happens. So have you ever been to your doctor and your doctor tells you that you can't change your pH? He's 100% correct. Because if you change your blood pH, you'd go into a coma and pass away. So our body protects us using those alkaline buffers, the calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. So the longer your body goes in that state, the more weak, the more brittle our body becomes, which leads to osteoporosis and illnesses of all types. So we want a balance, okay? So the next thing we do after this, now that they're like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Now we paint the picture with the drops, and they can see in front of their eyes, oh my gosh, what have I been doing all these years? So we get what's known as phenol red, pH indicating drops. For the scientific-minded people, they want to know exactly what this is. So when they say, what is that? You say it's phenol red. It's the same thing you test your pool with if your pool was going off. And the scientific-minded people are also going to be like, how many drops did you put in there? Because they're very scientific-minded. They have very specifics. So I do about 3. So then you want to take the glass and you want to put it right up here. So they can see. Dasani water is so acidic. Very acidic. Then we have our Propel, very, very acidic. Soda, Kangen water, very alkaline forming to the body. Now you're going to make sure to overcome the objection of the waters people find in the bottles at the store, or perhaps the tap water at this point. So you want to let people know there is a difference between alkaline ionized water and just alkaline water. Here's the difference. Alkaline water, by all scientific standards, is where you're adding ingredients to water to make it alkaline. So you can take acid water and you can put baking soda in it. And in your demo, you can also do that. Show them, wow, look, now it's alkaline. You can take calcium and put it in your water and make it alkaline. You can put lye in your water like they do in tap water to create alkaline. Lye is used in rat poisoning. It's very toxic. You've heard of Flint, Michigan, right? Where all those rust came out and poisoned a bunch of people with lead poisoning, because the water has to be alkaline. It's mandated, your tap water. 7.2 to 8.4, it has to stay within that zone. If it falls under that, they're gonna add more chemicals to make it alkaline, so it doesn't rust the pipes. So that's why I don't prefer to use the tap water in my demo, because then you have to explain all of that, and that takes a lot more time. So if you want to, great. If you don't feel comfortable with that, it's okay. Just let them know at a later date. Tap water is always going to be alkaline because they put chemicals in it. You're going to the store, you see the alkaline waters, look on the back. The first ingredient is baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, followed by potassium chloride, and they even have Epsom salt in there. So it's a chemical change. That will build up in your body. That creates calcium deposits, kidney stones, and can lead to glaucoma because they're inorganic things floating around in there your body can't use. Kangen water doesn't add any chemicals to the water for the drinking water purposes. Maybe if you're doing the 2.5 or 11.5, it adds the salt because salt conducts electricity. That's how you can really pull those antioxidants out and get high power and kill everything. But we don't add anything to the drinking water. It goes through the process of ionization and electrolysis. That makes it alkaline without giving your body all these unnatural things, because you can get too alkaline from alkaline water found on the shelf. But you would die from too much water before ever becoming too alkaline with this technology. It is impossible because there's nothing added to it. So that's why you must overcome that objection in your demo. But you can shorten it up, and I explain the whole thing for you, but shorten it up so it's easy to consume for people. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna just simply pour here. And you're gonna watch their faces go, oh my gosh, now look at this, right? This is really powerful. But what happens here? Oh, look at that. Nothing happens. Over here, nothing happens. And you let this sink in for a minute. You just kind of, let it sink in. They're like, wow. And then you show them the real truth. This is diluted Propel. This is this much soda pop or Propel and this much Kangen water at 9.5. Look what happens. We're just gonna put a little bit here. Completely ruins everything with a sip. I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen people that are sitting there and they're looking at me like, oh my gosh, no wonder I don't feel good. No wonder I have so many health issues going on in my body. I've been drinking this stuff my whole entire life. So just that alone in their mind is like enough, right? It's this right here that sells the machine. Even though we might know that it's the antioxidants that really gives the most benefit, but it's this visual that people can connect with. So make sure you do a really good job, get really animated when you're pouring it, show them, and then be silent so they can let it sink into their mind. So that is the pH. So the next thing we're gonna talk about here is the absorption. So we're gonna take a small little break here and we'll be right back. All right, so now we're gonna talk about the absorption. And way back when I first got involved, we used to call this microclustering. So if you hear microclustering, it's a term from the past. It's not scientifically backed. It's just a fancy term that we use in advertising. So to be more correct, to not make you feel like people are attacking me because it's not microclustered water, just say it's better absorbed. The surface tension is lower. So you're gonna notice here, the flip charts are gonna say better absorbed, lower surface tension right here. So tap water and bottled water. So here's what you wanna put in people's minds. Ask them the question, have you ever felt bloated or full when you drink a lot of water? And they'll say, yeah. Say, how does that make you feel? How would it make you feel if I said, all right, Jan, I want you to drink a half a gallon of this water right now, and I want you to jog across the street. How are you gonna feel? So what I'm trying to get from Jan is I want her to visualize that. I want her to feel that feeling so that she can get more emotionally involved in this product, right? She's gonna say, I'm gonna feel bloated, I'm gonna feel full. Exactly. This water here is not gonna do that to you. Here's where you're gonna paint a picture. So imagine a chain link fence. You're gonna take a soft ball and you're gonna throw it as hard as you can against that chain link fence. What's gonna happen? It's gonna bounce back, right? That's like bottled water, tap water. What's doing is you're going in, and remember the little cell that I drew earlier? It's sitting outside of the cell wall. So it's not being absorbed, it's not being utilized, it's not detoxifying you. In fact, the scientists say you absorb 15 to 17% of bottled water, tap water, intercellularly. Whereas this water is going into the cells because it's like a marble or a BB. So imagine that chain link fence and you throw a marble or a BB at that chain link fence. So you're drinking this water, it's natively charged, it's pulled into our cells, hydrates those cells 80% better, and it's flushing out that waste. It's cleansing and detoxifying you. No other water can do that unless you go into the mountains to get it. So to show you that, I'm gonna give you an illustration. So make sure to tell them it's an illustration because this green tea is also a pH indicator. So you just wanna know, and I use the stash because the stash has a bag on it. You can, part of the demo kit that I actually promote on my website has everything that you need. It's got the pH, it's got the jugs, it's got the ORP meter, it's got the tea, it's got the flip book. So here's the tea. So imagine that this is your brain, okay? So this is an illustration of how the water goes into the body and how it's used by the cells. So here's your brain. Your brain is 80% water. And I'll ask the audience, I'll say, do you know anyone with brain issues, with inflammation of the brain? Autism, Asperger's, ADHD, bipolar, any brain issues? Do you know somebody? Okay, so imagine that's your brain. You're not saying the water's gonna cure that, you're just saying imagine. Brain's 80% water, you're trying to drink bottled water or tap water. And here's your brain. Or you can imagine one of those cells that I drew for you earlier. So this is the 15 to 17% absorption, okay? If you use Dasani water or reverse osmosis water, you're not gonna pull as much tea out, by the way. If you use tap water or if you use alkaline water, it's also a pH indicator as well as its surface tension, but it's not gonna be as powerful. So I'd highly recommend you use reverse osmosis water for this because we're giving the best of the best. We want you to see the absolute best. So you can see this and bam, it goes right in. Isn't that cool? And we also do know that water is a transport nutrient. So here's what I'll ask the crowd. I'll say, you know, do any of you take vitamins or minerals or supplements? A lot of them will say yes. I say, okay, great. When I started drinking this water, I was probably spending $150 to $200 a month just in vitamins because I was trying to get healthy. Then I realized that water is what transports those nutrients into your cells. So if you have water that's supposed to transport and it's only being transported 15 to 17%, how much of the multivitamin and minerals and supplements are you actually using? Probably not much. So when you have the best water, it goes in, it pulls those nutrients into your cells, your body actually utilizes what you're putting into it. So then you can go back over here just so they see it's not a test. Okay. And this is actually happening here. And again here. And so you can make about 15 to 20 cups of tea with one tea bag. So that's just an illustration of how the water works in the body. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the 2.5 and 11.5 waters. All right, so now we're gonna segue. Now we just did the 3 properties. Now we're gonna say, not only does this unit make the best quality of drinking water for your friends, your family, your pets, your loved ones, it has the ability to get rid of every single chemical in your home. Imagine, no chemicals. There's a water on this unit called 2.5 strong acidic water. So I can take my finger and I can push a button down there that makes water that's stronger than bleach. That destroys 99.9% of bacteria and germs. MRSA, staph, gangrene, AIDS virus, E. coli, salmonella, kills everything. It's called reduced oxidized water. I'm gonna pause here for a second. If you wanted to go back to some of your training, you're gonna notice there is the sheets where I've actually put the sheets for you there, where it says what this water kills. So reduced oxidized water, and then it has all the different things that it's killed. So that's what I just told you about. So that's the information to back that up. So 2.5 water, we'll get back to the story now. So 2.5 water kills every single living organism in 30 to 60 seconds. So what would happen if your daughter or your son, I know I have 2 children myself, open the counter when you're cleaning underneath your sink, and they got into the bleach. They started drinking the bleach. You would have to go to the hospital. Having this unit in your home, you don't have to worry about that. In fact, my little daughters, they spray it everywhere. They're not worried about it at all. And it just makes me feel so good that I don't have to worry about all those chemicals around the house. So that's a benefit. On top of that, if you have these bottles, you can get them on my website. These will talk about the different uses. Comes in the distributor pack as well, the demo kit. So you can use this for things like sinus infections. You can snort it. You get a sore throat, you can gurgle with it. You can use it as deodorant, foot funguses, acne, athlete's foot. So there's pretty much so much information out there on all the different uses of the water. Go to my website. There is a digital download you can get that has all the different uses. And you can print that out so that people can see how to use it. So the 2.5 water is powerful. If you're to do your research on that water alone, it's called mycin or vetricin. The hospitals use it here in the US as mycin. It's what they sanitize their equipment in. The only difference is they use a pH, they put pH stabilizer in it that makes it about 7.0, so it doesn't rust the equipment, because things that are acidic rust. And then they have a stabilizer so it stays long time in the bottle. So that's the only difference. But the thing is they charge an arm and a leg for this stuff. Just go on Amazon. For 16 ounces of it, it's like 46 bucks. This unit makes endless supplies of it. So on top of that, we also make the 11.5 water. So this one here, what sells the 11.5 water is the vegetables. So make sure, I like to use tomatoes. You can use walnuts, you can use raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, whatever it is that you like. But I like consistency. And what I found here is these cherub tomatoes are pretty consistent. Make sure to test them first before your demo to make sure this actually has got chemicals on it, because otherwise you're gonna be embarrassed when there's nothing coming off. So always make sure to test your equipment, make sure your water has antioxidants in it, that you did everything correctly there, and make sure your tomatoes are actually chemicalized. So then when we're talking about 11.5, this is how we position it. So 11.5 water is opposite. And what I'll do is I'll go back over here to my chart, and I want them to remember, because you remember, you're giving them a lot of information. So the 2.5 is down here. That kills everything. So we just talked about that. Have them smell it. Put it in a little container and smell it. Pass it around the room, have them smell it. They're gonna, oh my gosh, it smells like bleach. And then you can even drink a little bit of it. So they can be like, oh my gosh, you just drank that. And you say it's not toxic, right? So then we have the 11.5, which is way up here. That's opposite. So this is aging, this is oxidizing. So that's why with skin issues, it helps to oxidize. It helps to heal things up faster. On the opposite spectrum of that is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Very powerful, even more powerful than 9.5. This is not used to drink, it's used topical. So you can actually soak. So if you have like someone that comes to you and they're like, look, I have really bad pain in my hands, soak it in 11.5. Your body will pull in those antioxidants, helping with inflammation. This is the same thing with people with allergies. Do a little neti pot, have them snort it. If you wanted to do it with your carpet cleaning, you can do it for any grease. It breaks down oils. So here's where we start to talk about herbicides and pesticides. So I will ask the question, have you ever seen oil and water mix? Most people are like, no, I've never seen that. All right, check it out. Your socks are gonna fall off, so watch out. It's so incredible. Like, hold on to yourself. This is gonna be wild because everything you've already been told about water and oil that they didn't mix, I'm here to tell you that they do. You just have to have the right water. So what you're gonna do next is you're gonna take out 2 glasses. The oil that I get is called sesame oil here. Notice that it says pure. If you're using other types of oil, you're gonna be like, ah, it doesn't work because they put things in it. If it's not pure, there's ingredients. Those ingredients, your 11.5 water won't break down those protein structures. So you gotta get this one, or the olive oil is fine too, but I like this as well because it's dark. You're just gonna put a couple in here. Okay, and this is gonna represent oil-based herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides. So you're just gonna take it from here, and you're gonna take first the bottled water, and you're just gonna say, okay, here we are. Everything you learn from science is true. Water and oil do not mix. Now we have 11.5 water. So look what happens here. It completely breaks down oil. It emulsifies oil. So that becomes your laundry soap, your carpet cleaner, and your window wash. Isn't that cool? And on top of that, here's where we make the importance of the chemicals on the food. So here's where I bring out the food and I position it like this. How many of you go to the store and buy fruits and vegetables? Everyone's gonna raise their hand. Okay. And when you take it home, how are you washing it? They're gonna say with tap water. Tap water contains chlorine. Chlorine is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. It was invented in World War I as a gas to kill people in concentration camps. So now we're washing our fruits and vegetables in chlorinated water. That chlorine's gonna go right into the food and then we're eating all the chlorine. On top of that, these herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides are oil-based. Why? Because the farmers are protecting their crops. They don't want to have to go out there every couple days and spray the pesticides. When it rains, they don't want it to wash off. So they're gonna put oil-based herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides so the rain doesn't wash it off. Side in Latin means what? Homicide, suicide. It means death. So we're eating this food that contains all these contaminants. We have 2 brains. We have a brain here and we have an immune system brain here. We have all this microbiome, this really good gut bacteria. So when we're putting in these sides, they're killing our good gut bacteria. Our brain and our gut communicate. You've heard of people that get depression all the time? That's because they're not making adequate amounts of serotonin and dopamine, or their brain chemistry is not correct. So then we go into depression, or our immune system becomes compromised. We're getting sick all the time. You're wondering, why do I keep getting sick? Especially if you're taking antibiotics. Anti means against, biotic is life. So you're anti-life. You're killing good stuff in your body. The probiotics, pro means for life, love this environment. So they tend to flourish in that environment. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show them exactly how this water cleans off the fruits and vegetables. And I always ask people, I say, you know, do you like tomatoes? Because if they do, it's a huge selling tool. I've sold some machines because of this alone. So then you're just going to show them what happens. So, okay, so imagine this is you, and you just bought these tomatoes from the store, and you're going to wash them with this water here. Okay, so we're just gonna let that soak. And then over here, we're gonna do the 11.5. And you wanna really let this sit about 2 to 3 minutes if you can. So while that's sitting there, what I do is I'll come over here. Because at this point, I'm thinking, okay, this is too good to be true. Really, Amanda, this can't be. That's where you need some credibility to back up what you're saying, right? So that's where you go back to the book. And you're gonna say, okay, so here's all the things that 2.5 can be used on. Here's a baby that had psoriasis. This is before and this is after. And this is spraying topical 2.5. You're going to talk about eczema, look at the before, look at the after. Of course, we're not making any medical claims. Just let them know that that's after putting the water on the skin. And that's not, you know, saying it's curing anything. Everybody's different, but this is you putting it on the skin. Acne. Here's where, if you have a personal story that goes along with this, use it. So I used to be shy. I didn't want people to know that I had bad acne. So when I started this water, I had acne, right? And it was on my forehead, really bad, to the point where I'd wear my bangs out to the front like that, and then I'd hairspray my bangs. The reason is I didn't want to like let them see inside because it was so embarrassing for me to have such bad acne. And then if I went outside, I would like cover myself so the wind wouldn't like, you know, brush it away and someone would see it. That's how embarrassed I was over it. What we do know about acne is yeast from too much sugar. So you're eating sugar and then it's feeding the yeast. And those yeast have a waste product that comes out of the body, and that's acne. So it's also hormone imbalance as well. So the more cleansed the body gets, the less acne you're gonna have. And then of course you can use it to spray on the skin. So a lot of clients come to us and they're like, wow, my skin's so clear, because it's cleansing that yeast. It's cleansing that sugar out of your body. Okay, so then we have the MRSA here. Okay, we talk about the blood. Your blood's 90% water. Blood is what transports oxygen, nutrients, and hormones in your body. So here's a state most people have called rouleau. There's even a YouTube video on this. If you just look up rouleau of the blood, there's a scientist that actually shows you this on the video. It's really powerful. So here's before. Your blood cells are clumped up together. They can't get the nutrients, can't get the oxygen or the hormones. 12 minutes after ionized water goes in, separates those blood cells. Now your body can actually do what it's supposed to do. So imagine that you are iron deficient or vitamin B deficient, and you're taking vitamin D, or vitamin B or whatever it is, and your blood cells are clumped together, can't even use nutrients. So now with better water, ooh, all of a sudden, the B vitamins can actually go to the docking station they need to go to get absorbed. It's powerful. Okay, then we talk about the 11.5 water here. We can talk about Windex and how you don't have to have Windex anymore. There's another water that I talk about here, beauty water. So the beauty water also comes out of the unit. And this is for us ladies. Imagine not having to go buy the toners. This beauty water is slightly acidic, but it tightens and tones your skin. Great for things like age spots, moles, wrinkles. Spray it on your skin. My friend's actually an esthetician, and she makes custom-made mineral makeup. She sells the beauty water and puts in a little lavender oil and a little bit of witch hazel, and uses it as a toning setting spray. So it's pretty cool. But you can also use the beauty water as Windex. Cleans better than any other Windex or any other chemical that I know of. Plants love the beauty water as well. Definitely do some experience with that. Before and after photos, amazing. Cleaning and washing your face. We do have a medication water. So here's where, if you have an older client that's like, well, I see there's medication water on here. First off, you don't want to scare people. 9 years of doing this, I've not had one person with any problems from taking medication with the 9.5 water. But as a precaution, the company wants to protect its own self. So of course they're going to say for medication, drink the 7.0. 7.0 is not absorbed any better and has no antioxidants, just filtered water. So for those of you, and I'll say for those of you that are taking medication, our company recommends that you take the medication with just clean filtered water. I leave it at that. Because if you start to say, because what can happen is your body's going to absorb it more and you're going to have too much medication, now you just put fear in someone's mind. And if you go to our medical advisor, his name is Dr. Horst Filzer. He graduated from Harvard Medical. And he's been asked that question in front of thousands of people on stage. And he says right there, it doesn't matter if you take medication with the 9.5 water or the 7.0 water. So because he said that, and it's on video, and it's on the internet, I tend to believe it's true. And out of 9 years of doing this, I've not had one person that had any issues. But if you put a lot of fear in their mind, they're gonna start to say, I don't think I should get one of these because I take too many medications. Okay, so just be cautious on that. Then we can talk about Dr. Shinya. He does have some really good books out there called The Enzyme Factor. Highly recommend you can use that in your presentation because it does talk about the water in there as well. But it's important to tell people what happens. And so I paint them a picture. One of my good friends, when I started out in this business, she was like, I don't know why, but I've been getting this water, my clients have been getting this water, and they're going to the bathroom really well. She's a hydrocolon therapist. So what she does for a living is she cleans people from the inside out. And she started coming into me and she started drinking this water, started sending her clients to me, and they started getting better. So she's like, what is going on? Here's the thing. We have 23 feet from here to here. We can store 15 pounds of fecal matter in our colon. 15 pounds. So if you're not going to the bathroom once or twice a day, which most people aren't, it's usually every 2 to 3 days. Now you're like, oh, I'm talking to you, right? They're like, oh my gosh, what is she gonna tell me next? Your body is gonna start to reabsorb that toxicity. Worse than that, so now you're painting him a picture. You have little critters that are in your body. These little critters are yeast, parasites, bacteria, funguses. They're living, right? What do we have to live? Food and water. So now they're in there and they're consuming this fecal matter that your body's not getting rid of because you're dehydrated. And from their little body, they are leaving behind a very toxic, a very acidic waste from their little body into your body that leads to diseases of all types. And when I say that, they're just like, oh, because no one's going to tell you that's going on in their body. They don't want to tell you, but almost everyone has gut issues. So then we can talk about Dr. Shinya. So we talk about Dr. Shinya and how it developed the polypectamine and the colonoscopy. And you can go research it online, get some videos from online. Just type in Dr. Shinya, Kangen water. He'll say right in the video, here's a patient of mine drinking the Kangen water before and after. So this is the slides. So this is a 45-year-old female with breast cancer, chronic constipation after 2 days of prep. Remember, we're not curing anybody of anything. Just allow your body to balance itself given the right tools. Okay, so before and after, 65-year-old female, cigarette smoker with breast cancer. What I've also noticed, and you can let people know this, is that when you start to drink the water, the first thing people start to notice is increased energy. They sleep better at night, and they're wondering why they've lost a couple pounds, maybe a couple inches, and they are able to eliminate waste. That increases your energy, and people are just like, oh my gosh. So that's what they start to notice first off. And you can paint the picture and they start to know that going into it. And because they know it, they're looking for it, which is easier to sell somebody something if they've had a benefit, okay? All right, so now we're gonna get back to the tomatoes. So let's get back to these tomatoes. We're gonna show people here what happens. So I usually say by this time, okay, who wants to try some tomatoes? And if you have a little stick here, I usually use this, but if you have like a spoon or a fork, it'd be better. You can show them, look, that's you with your regular water, right? Okay, and then this is after we wash them. That's any herbicides, pesticides, or fungicides. Oil-based. Now, who wants to try the difference? So this is when you're gonna have them tasting it. And what I like to do is have the bad one first. I mean, the one that had just the tap water, because you don't want them to have a bad flavor in their mouth if they do that one second. So do the bad one first, the one in tap water, do the good one second. And then ask them, how does it taste in front of everybody else? And they're like, oh, it's so crunchy, it's so clean, it's so good. It's just like you picked it from your garden. So now they're like, wow, that's so good. Okay, so now we're gonna take another little break and then we're getting into the actual selling of the machine at this point. Now we're gonna work on how to sell the shower machine. So right before we close it out with the actual machines and how to get one, we wanna talk about chlorine. Most people don't realize their skin is their largest organ, makes up 16% of their body weight. So when they're showering in chlorinated tap water, all that chlorine's a gas, it's gonna go into your skin and it's gonna go into your liver and your body absorbs all the chlorine. So this is how we sell the shower machine, okay? So what you're gonna do next is you're gonna take 2 glasses and and you're gonna take your tap water. So make sure your tap water has chlorine first before you do this. And it usually does most of the time unless you're on a well, because wells aren't regulated by the city. But if it's city water, they're gonna have chlorine, because chlorine is gonna kill any bacteria that's in the water. So it's mandated to be in there. And we talked about earlier, where does chlorine come from? It was invented in World War I as a gas to kill people. So it's in our water supply. So here's where we hit home with this. So this is chlorine indicating drops. What we're gonna do is just put a couple drops in here. Once it turns yellow, that means there's chlorine. Wow, that is a lot of chlorine. Same exact water. What we're gonna do here is have a volunteer. I'll do it myself if I have to, but I try my best not to because I don't want to expose myself to that. But what you're gonna do, I'm gonna take one for the team right now. Take your hand and it's gonna go in this water, just like you're showering. And you're gonna just show people, all right, my hand just went in there, okay? Now you test for chlorine. Same drops, same everything. The only difference here is that chlorine went into my body. This is where you take the clap one for the team, because you just took one for the team. I basically just put all that chlorine in my body. So you know when you're swimming around in the swimming pool and you get out, and you're like, man, I'm so tired. That's all that chlorine going into your liver. It's aging your liver, and your body's trying to process it out. You can take another step further here, and the same tomatoes, or you can use a lemon. If you're using the tomatoes, for some reason, it doesn't do exactly, oopsie, like I like it with the lemon, which you slice the lemon, but if it's tomatoes, just kind of open the tomato up. It gives it more surface area, and it'll go in there, and you can show people that your food absorbs the chlorine as well. So you just put that in there, and look at what happened. The food took in the chlorine. So do lemon on that, and it'll just show them. If you're going out to a restaurant, it's a secret. If you have no Kangen water, ask for tap water if that's all they have, and then put the lemon in there, swirl it around, it pulls the chlorine out. So now you have a filter in a way. So, but you can show them, look, that's all the toxins, all the chlorine going into your food. So that's definitely why you want to use 11.5. All right, so that's the tomatoes, that's the chlorine. So now we're gonna ask the question. Here is your question to see where your audience is at. So you're gonna say, okay, so now that I just showed you this amazing technology, where do you wanna go from here? Number one option is this. We can go back to drinking bottled water. As you know, the bottled water sits in the plastic, it absorbs all the chemicals. We throw it into the landfills, goes to the oceans, the fish eat it, and then we're consuming it. And it's costing you $150 per month to drink this. So how many of you want to go back to drinking bottled water? No one's going to answer, right? That's what you want. Okay, good. I did a good job. The second thing that's going to happen is you can drink tap water. As you know, tap water is mandated with chemicals to make sure the pH is correct for you. Plus, there's all the chlorine in there, which is basically poisoning your system every time you're drinking it, and it's not absorbed and it's aging you. How many people want to do that? No raise of hands? Okay, good. Last thing is you can invest in one unit that gets rid of all the chemicals in your home. That's good for you to drink. You can give it away to your friends and family. And it's 100% tax deduction. It will cost you more not to own one than to own one. How many of you want to do that? And now everyone's like raising their hand. Fantastic. Let me get into the different units. So now is where we have, now you have to do that, I'm telling you. If you don't close at the end, people won't buy. You've got to ask for the sale, and you've got to break it down to the payment system, because people aren't going to buy it because of the expense. They don't have the money. Just realize 90% of the people don't have the money. So get with the program, sell on the terms, not the price. So how much can we get it for per month, not on the actual price? Okay, so here's where we're going to describe the different units. So we start with a spa. Because of the chlorine, we can add a benefit here. So here is the spa. And I like to paint the picture again. Imagine going into your spa, into your shower. You turn it on, and that tap water filters out all the chemicals. Then it spins the water over a bed of minerals that are found from the hot springs in Japan. How many of you have been to a hot spring before? I ask that question. And they're like, yeah, it's so awesome. How does your skin feel when you get out? They're like, oh, it feels so nice. That's what happens every day when you shower in your spa. People are just like, oh my gosh, I have to have one. And if it's your second unit, you actually get a thank you check back just for owning it. And I was like, oh, really? That's awesome. So this unit right here, I can get to you, if you have good credit, anywhere from about $20 to $30 per month. And I was like, oh, I can see myself owning it. If you just said it's $23.90 and they think I got to write a check, they're not going to see themselves owning it. So they're not getting emotionally attached. So if you can paint the picture of, hey, you can get it for $20, $30 a month, bingo. Now they see themselves owning it, and they'll do all kinds of things just to make it possible. We'll look for a co-signer, we'll sell some stuff we're not using, but it's your job to get them emotionally attached. Okay, so there's a spot. The Love Book R, I don't even talk about it. I leave that out. It's in there, but I don't even talk about it because it doesn't, I mean, for $300 more, they can get all of the different waters. So here's what's important. You don't want to get too scientific on people. You don't want to give them too many options because a confused mind never buys. So you can explain this one gently. Basically, this is the junior machine. It's a good entry-level unit. Inside the unit, there's electrodes. Those electrodes are dipped in medical-grade platinum. Platinum, as you know, is $1,200 per ounce. Now I'm justifying the cost of the unit. So the more platinum you have, the more expensive the unit becomes, the higher results you're going to feel. So this guy right here has 3 electrodes. It's a great little starter unit. Now, why didn't I just bash this one? Because I don't want them to say that's all I can afford, but since I can't get that one because it's not as good, I'm not going to buy anything. So whatever it is, you always want to have, it's a great unit to start with. You know, never be negative on anything, except for the R, I just don't show it. Okay, there's the Junior 2. So it's a great little option. You're starting out. We can finance this one for only $20 to $30 a month as well. And we do have 0 turn down financing. So when you say that, they're like, oh, thank goodness, because I don't have good credit, I can still get one. So they're still thinking owning, owning, owning. The next little unit here, this is a very popular unit. Now notice how very popular. So I'm positioning it in a way that my energy is raised on this one because I love to sell this one in the K8. So SD501 comes in 3 different models. So you went from 3 electrodes in the Junior. This one gives you 7 electrodes. So you get double the results. This one can get to a negative charge here of a negative 800 on the antioxidant chart, whereas that Junior is about a negative 400. Fantastic unit. These units, by the way, they last for up to 30 years. Now here's where you might want to tell them about the warranty that we have. So with the units, life expectancy is 30 years. We do have a warranty that comes with the unit. And I love the warranty because here's the thing. You can extend it at any time. So it comes with 5 years, and let's say 20 years down the road, you're like, Amanda, I pushed the button and nothing happens. Don't worry about it. Let's get the extended warranty. We'll send the unit back to one of our local branches. Whatever's going on with it, they'll fix it for you and send it right back. It's only $250 more to get the extended warranty. Don't get it unless something happens to it. And then you can extend it for another 3 years. So you're always going to be protected. But it does come with a 5-year warranty. And you can extend it, okay? So that's our SD501 standard unit. Here's the platinum unit of the same thing. Same exact thing, different color in 5 different languages. You might get bored, I don't know, of hearing the same English model, right? So this one's got 5 different ones. Love this unit. It's a little bit more, but hey, it's worth it because you're gonna have it for 30 years if your countertops and everything in your home is stainless steel. Then we have the under counter model. So this one would be something like for an island kitchen. The downfall to this one, if I had to choose a downfall, is that the plumber is gonna wanna come out and install it because it's not simple to do. But it is nice because it's that finished look. It's the SD501 underneath the counter, and there's a little readout for you. Excellent unit. This one we finance for around $50 to $60 per month. This one is my favorite unit. So notice how I'm putting more excitement into this. My favorite unit. You're the consultant, they're gonna get what you tell them to get. So I like to sell this one. This is our K8. What I love about this one is it's international. When you start to do this and you wanna travel somewhere, you can't be without your water. Let's say we want to go to France, Italy, somewhere really nice, Bali. You can take this unit. There's different adapters everywhere in the world. So this one can accommodate that. Plus you have an additional electrode. So you have 8 electrodes. This one here, it also is very digital, like your cell phone. So it's more for techie. It's awesome. So this one here is only $50 a month to $60 a month and gets to a negative 900 on the antioxidant chart. Fantastic unit, one of my favorites. Then of course we do have the super unit. This one's for daycares, this one's for large commercial use because it is very large and it's made to make more 2.5 and 11.5 water. So those are different units. I suggest at this point that we talk about the financing options. So we're gonna take a little break here and then we're gonna get back into it. All right, here's where we're gonna talk about the business and then we're gonna get into the different financing options. So you're gonna basically let people know, say, hey, you know, what's gonna happen to you is what happened to me. You're gonna start to drink this water fresh from the comfort of your own home and you're gonna start to feel that energy. People around you are gonna be like, what are you doing? And that's when you say, you know, I got this water machine and I think that's what it is. You want to try some too? Because of that, you have an in-home based business. A lot of people are afraid of business, right? Because they don't understand it. What you don't understand, you don't tend to get on board with. So that's our job here, to help them understand why owning a business is one of the smartest things you can do as an employee. So I'm going to break it down right now for you, but you don't need to explain this in your demo. Just realize that if someone asks you the question, you can tell them exactly what this means. So as you have this unit in your home, you have a business. When you have a business, you have tax deductions. Average household income in the US between the wife and the husband is around $60,000. So that's the average household income in the US. From that $60,000, you're paying taxes. A lot of it gets taken right out of your paycheck to pay the government, right? On top of that, we also have no deductions as an employee. You're not able to write off your cell phone, your entertainment center, the square footage of your home, your traveling expenses. You're not able to write any of that off because you don't have a business. So here's what this looks like when you're in business for yourself. You make $60,000 a year, you and your husband, and now you have a business. You know, Hawaii sounds really nice, and there's a convention in Hawaii this year for Enagic. Because of that, and we're going to go to it, your airfare becomes tax deductible. Now your hotel, your rental car, your meals while you're there at 50%. Your cell phone becomes part of a tax deduction because you're talking to people. Now that trip costs $5,000, right? We're gonna buy it anyways, even if you didn't have a business, but you couldn't write it off. So now to the $60,000, $5,000 is deductible. So now you didn't make $60,000, you made $55,000, even though you would have spent it anyways. Okay, so now let's go a step further. The car you're driving. Do you think you could put some gallons of water in it and deliver it to a couple of your friends? You know, hey, your mom lives in Seattle, you want to go visit her every month, and it's a 5-hour drive to get there. You're going for business now. And the government will give you 58 cents a mile while driving for your business as a tax deduction. So if it's a 4-hour drive, let's just imagine it could be around 400 miles. That's like $500 right there in tax deductions. That goes against the gross income. So you can take a depreciation a couple different ways, but the miles is usually the best. So just imagine that, you know, you put 50,000 miles in your car like I do every year. That is a lot of deductions. So let's just imagine it's $8,000, $10,000 of deductions because of that. Now instead of make the $55,000, you made the $45,000. All right, what else did we do? We had to buy the machine. You have to have it for your business. Now you made $40,000 for the end of the year. Can you see where I'm going with this? So the more deductions you have, the less income, even though you would have spent it anyways. Now at the end of the year, there's no profit. You didn't make any income. So part of the money that you paid a lot of the times out in your paycheck comes back to you because you're in a lower tax bracket. So my average client, because I also do taxes, if you didn't know that, reach out to me, I'll help you with this. My average client saves $3,000 to $8,000 a year because of owning one. It is the smartest, most powerful thing that you can do in your home and have a business on the side. Plus, I can teach you how to make an additional $2,000 to, whatever it is that you want, wherever your mindset's at, per month doing this. So if you like to help people, that's how you initiate it. If you like to help people, then this is definitely something you want to get into. And I can teach you step by step by step on how to do this as a business. And when you tell people step by step by step, that creates certainty in their mind. They want to know that they can actually do it. If you just set them with a machine and just hopefully they do it, not going to happen. That's why this training program was developed, so that you can go out there and help other people with it as well. That's why we have an affiliate program with it, so you can share it and get a nice little commission back as well. Okay, so this is how you get your money back. So now that you position it that way, now you get to get into the financing. So you're going to let them know. What you really want is you want to put out the information, but realize that most of the sales come after this. So they're going to come over to you, have a little demo table in the back, or a little closing table is what I call it, that you go to afterwards. So I'll be over here for any questions you might have. I also have my paperwork ready, my computer ready, so we can get you the financing. So here's how you ended it, okay? So at the end, you're gonna basically say, thank you all for coming tonight. And just to give you the financing options, we do have different terms. So if you have great credit, 650 and above, we can get you financing, no interest for 15 months. Minimum payment is 1% of the balance. So that ends up being anywhere from $20 to $50 a month to have this in your home. And you have the 100% tax deductible item. Fantastic. If you don't have the best of credit, hey, we all go through things. We can help you as well. I'll be over here at the financing table. Just go ahead and come see me over here and we'll get you started today. So that is how you close it out. Thanks for your time, and I can't wait for you all to get healthy, hydrated, and happy. Bam. Okay, so from here, we're gonna close it out. You're gonna go to your demo table. You're gonna have everything ready. You're gonna have all the paperwork. You're gonna also have people with you so that you can have them answering questions that aren't related to the financing, and you can get into the paperwork. So I hope that education helped you today. I know once you get this, review this 10, 20, 30, 50 times if you want. The more repetition you get, the easier it's gonna be. The more you're gonna talk about it, the more confident you're gonna be as well. So I can't wait to see you in the next lesson. And until I see you, be happy, be healthy, and be free.